I'm Big Jim. Welcome to Big Jim's Kitchen. This channel is going to feature some good old recipes that I've learned throughout the years. Some easy, some more complicated, some healthy, and some that you'll need to have your last will and testament ready before eating, but all delicious. Now, I'm going to let y'all know right now, that when I cook, I go for flavor, not presentation. So if you're looking for some fancy pants gourmet restaurant style of cooking, then you've come to the wrong place. Now, on to today's recipe. For today's recipe, we're going to be doing an old classic. We're going to be doing stuffed jalapenos. Now, this can be considered stuffed jalapenos or a stuffed jalapeno casserole. It's up to you to decide. But these are the ingredients. You're going to want a pound of ground beef. You're going to want to have some cream cheese. Make sure it's set at the room temperature. It'll make it a lot easier to mix in. You're going to want some cheese, some nice shredded cheese. I prefer cheddar cheese. For this specific one, I'm trying something new. I'm going to add the juice of a lime. You're also going to want some Parmesan cheese. You're going to want some green onions, a tomato for dicing, and a whole bunch of jalapenos. Now, when you go shopping for your jalapenos, you're going to want to get the biggest and fattest jalapenos you can find. Reason being is because it's going to be less work when you're cutting them open and basically getting the seeds out and then lining your pan. Got these over at Sam's Club, by the way. So let's get started. First things first, we're going to go ahead and rinse off the jalapenos. We're going to rip off the stems, cut them open, pull out all the seeds, and then go ahead and line the pan. Let's get started. These stems should rip off fairly easily. That one didn't. So if it comes off like that, take your little knife here and just tip the end off. Now we're going to go, if it's slightly curved, you're going to want to go like this, so when it lays, it doesn't roll. All right, going to have it up like this. The easiest way to get these out with this tiny little knife is to make an insertion here at the top. Be gentle not to cut yourself. Pull her down, and then in there like so. And it should just come out real easy. After you do that, go ahead and rinse it off in the sink. Now that it's all nice and cleaned up, just go ahead and place it in your pan like so. Gonna repeat that for the rest of these. Now that we've finished cutting up our jalapenos, go ahead and make sure they're lined up like this in the pan. Now we are going to head on over here to the stove and brown the hamburger meat. As we brown our hamburger meat, we are gonna want to make sure to cut it up and make sure it gets rid of most of the big lumps so it helps cook more evenly. Gonna go until this is all nice and brown and then go ahead and drain the fat. Now, while we're waiting for the meat to brown, we can go ahead and dice up this here tomato. I like to cut off the end here. Toss that. Then make nice thin slices. Now you get these individual pieces and pretty easy. Make sure not to cut your hands because that would be bad. All right, now that we've got our ground beef pretty much browned, let's go ahead and bring it over here and drain some of the fat. Oops. Try not to lose it in the fat container here. Drain as much as you can. That's good enough. Now I'm going to come back over here, top of the stove, and go ahead and take our cream cheese, which I cut open, and go ahead and add this to the mix. Yeah, good enough. Now, gonna basically have it in here and chop it up. Get a good mix going. Stir it up, chop it up. And I forgot to mention, before you start everything, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350. Got a semi-decent mix going on here. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and add a cup of Parmesan cheese to the mix. Little pug in the background can be noisy at times. Sorry about that. Go ahead and add all that in there and mix it around so it gets to a good consistency. That looks like it ought to be pretty good. Let's go start filling up these jalapenos. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are in the stuffing phase. I like to spoon it out with the spatula here and just put some in each individual one. Doesn't have to be pretty. Because you're going to be using all this. As a matter of fact, this mixture is going to be so much that it's going to be too much to just be in each individual one. So what we're going to end up doing most likely is just putting an entire layer of this ground beef mixture in here. And still filling up these jalapenos. Getting to the point where we're running a little bit out of room, so I'm going to just go ahead and start smoothing this over. And just make it as even as I can. Don't have to be perfect. Now, scrape this off, get as much of that goodness off there as you can. Now, time to go ahead and add the tomatoes, and I need to cut up these green onions. Now onto the green onions. After you've rinsed these off, I like to take the very end and just snip all these little tips off and toss these. Now, if you have to do that, that's just what I always do when it comes to green onions. And we just go ahead and cut these into nice, small, thin pieces. Just a hair more. There we go. Now that we got everything cut up, one thing I'm going to do a little bit different is take the juice from a lime and squirt it on top of the mixture first. A lot more juice in there than I thought. Go for second half. Now, gonna go ahead and take handfuls of each of the green onion and tomato and just scatter it on top here. Try and make it as even as you can. Now, this is ready to go into the oven for a half hour. After a half hour, I'll go ahead and pull it out, and then I'll go ahead and add a layer of cheese in there and toss it in for an extra 15 minutes. All right, it's been a half hour. Let's go ahead and pull this out of the oven. Ooh, that's looking pretty. Let's go ahead and cheese the heck out of it. Using some good old mild cheddar cheese. Give a nice liberal spread on there. Get it all over the place. Tiny bit more. Whoops. All right, that'll be good. Now time to put this back in the oven for another 15 minutes. All right, you've given this a few minutes to cool off. Now for the taste test. Let's go ahead and cut into this a little bit. Nice and gooey. Just for some extra flavor, I like to toss a little bit of ranch on here for a dip. Mmm. Now that is some good stuffed jalapeno / casserole.